lyrical, spiritual. Lyrical, spiritual.
So, welcome to my show, Mestizo Show.
Man.
First,
Thanks for having me.
first of them all. I have the guest of honor, man. One of the most important people in my life and my rap career and all that. You know, you and I met when I was 15, and I was just saying this before you hopped on. You know, and
yeah,
it's a pivotal point in my life, and you introduced me. You basically introduced me to just all the hip hop that I listen to now, and I probably wouldn't have been into things like MF Doom and all that if it wasn't for you. You know, so
man, I was just I don't even know how I got into it, but I just remember Yo MTV Raps, and I remember just seeing like videos and like, oh wow, and then
that's kind of how we all started back then, right?
yeah,
TV
raps.
raps,
And then you know me, you know how
especially
much
for the West Coast.
Yeah, like you know how much the Far Side had an impact on me, like in
Right.
Dell,
Yeah.
like Dell and the Far Side and shit, and
Right.
Beastie Boys.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like Dell, Beastie Boys, Far Side, like Cypress Hill, like that shit. And then the Boogie Monsters. When I heard them, I'm like, whoa, you know, this is. And then just you know KMD and all that shit, and I'm just like,
Right. Were you listening to KMD when they first came out?
yeah, my homie is you would think I'm from a small town in San Diego, but my peer group, like, were outcasts kind of like they had like OC's album and all that shit. Like
San Diego's always been pretty up on hip hop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they had all that shit, and I'm like, I would go through their like collection and be like, oh, can I borrow this? Can I borrow this? And then when I met Vex, you know, because he had vinyl, and so I remember I was obsessed with the Ugly Duckling too in Arizona. I remember.
Well, let's before we get there, let's start. You know, at the beginning, like when did you first decide that you were going to start rapping? Like, what was it that drove you?
I don't know when I met you guys.
Well, before that, you had what? Rising Sun, Rhyme Layer.
I was in an all black rap group called Rising Sun. I met my homie. I met this dude Jamil. At the dorm. This brother could fucking ollie over a trash can. Like, he was dope. He was from Texas. He's actually the one that got me into the Boogie Monsters. He'd like knock on my dorm room. Remember my dorm room at, you know, the ones outside?
Right.
The ones that you went to.
Yeah, was it Ocotillo? Wasn't Ocotillo? Ocotillo, yeah.
Yeah, and so I met him, and then and then that's when they actually, I'm impressed now because Smurf and Steve, the other MCs, they actually like fucking got studio time, pressed up these tapes and shit, and I'm like, oh, and they ended up moving, but then the second wave is when I met you and the rest of the homies.
So you decided to start rapping in Arizona when you moved to Arizona?
Yeah, well, kinda, because you know, like back then, you know, like the main thing with me was like weed, music, and skateboarding, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean that's every hip hop '90s kid.
Yeah.
That was kind of the.
Do you remember
the trend.
What's that fucking TMC or whatever those hip hop events?
Yep. The TMC.
That was our shit. You know, like, you know, the Diggable Planets would come through, or like Artifacts would come through, you know?
Right.
And then it was at the Electric Ballroom or like on Apache Boulevard.
Mm-hmm.
And so and then I continued that tradition with you.
So when we met at Higher Ground, so Higher Ground was a club, and we met in Tempe,
I remember
Arizona.
that night. Yeah. I remember it quite vividly, yeah.
Right. I had that was probably 6 months after I moved to Arizona.
Yeah,
from
like
California.
That small coffee shop, and me and Vex, me and Alex were there. We'd go there quite frequently because they had a small little bar room on the side of behind the coffee shop on the side or whatever.
So from the jump, were you always freestyling? Did you start out freestyling, or did you start out writing?
I think with us back then, it was mostly freestyling, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah, it was
Well, that's
freestyle.
how I
Well,
met
that's all I
you.
did, bro. You know what? That
Yeah,
reminds me because that's the first time I wrote a song was with you, like an actual
I
song.
remember that night too.
Yeah, you remember
Lamar,
that night?
unstoppable like Lamar.
No, no.
Yeah, whatever. Something, yeah.
On your
I
little, it was
remember
like a little
getting
4-track that you
writing
had.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yep. You had a little 4-track in the
yeah,
Roland MS1.
yeah. I had
Yeah, I think you've shown it on the previous interviews that we did
I
together.
still
Yeah,
have it.
that's it. Who's the dude on the sticker? I never found out who that is.
This dude was just this guy I met in LA had I put this on later. He found some guy's passport and just made stickers out of some random dude.
Whoa,
So this is some random like Vietnamese dude like that just exists.
that's a trip.
Yeah, and then Dragon Ball Z and then fucking I made a lot of
I watched a lot of Dragon Ball back then.
but I made a lot of this is all like our first demos, right? Like on this.
I think some of the best sound that came out of that era was off of that machine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that machine. And then when we jumped up to, remember Strange had the Roland 202, and we jumped up to some other samplers, and I was like, the sound wasn't the same after we left that machine.
I remember that machine. That was actually like a built-in drum machine. Where I remember walking down the stairs of our apartment, and it would be like real late at night, and you would be sitting on that tall stool, just like fucking with it all the time.
I was on it a lot, yeah.
A lot, yeah.
Because it just had those sounds on it that I was looking for. Because I was always still trying to capture that bass sound, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, yeah, man, like meeting you and Strange really like shifted my enthusiasm more towards it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like after meeting you guys, I'm like, damn, we can like start something too.
All my first rap shows was with you guys, like all of them. Those were like the proving grounds for me is when we were doing all those hood shows that were just all 3 of us or all 6 of us, you know.
Yeah, I remember.
A lot of people don't know.
I remember those shows. Like, what was that place in Phoenix? That real shady place.
The Mason Jar.
That Mason Jar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that actually brings me to something I wanted to talk about. Is like I think a lot of people, when you talk about the reptilian stuff, I think a lot of people take it as funny stuff, but it's stuff that we learned about back then from Thahum and Malaka. Rest in peace, Thahum. Yeah.
Yeah, Quangou.
Yeah. AKA
like now in hindsight, I'm like, oh shit, that was like the real shit.
Mm-hmm.
But Quangou and his peoples, like he was a part of this religion or fucking group, right?
Right.
And I remember, like, the other guy had glasses too, and they actually they had a personal meeting with me. I don't know if they did this with you.
Oh yeah, I went to some of those Anunnaki meetings.
But anyway, they fucking. I remember we were on campus, and they're like, I felt like it was some kind of like therapy church meeting, but they were like they had invested interest in like we sat down at a bench on campus, and it was like a Bible study, but it was, dude, this shit was not a Bible. They had like a book with all these alien races.
Yeah, the scripts. Yeah.
So
the scrolls. They were called scrolls. Yeah.
Scrolls, but now in hindsight, I know it to be true through my own research. I'm like, oh shit, they knew about this back then.
A lot of the things that are happening now, those books talked about. And I remember reading them back then, having my mind blown. That's why a lot of the stuff going on right now is not surprising, you know?
See, you it kind of scared me. Like, I thought it was some fucking, like, really bizarre shit. Like, it scared me when I saw, because I remember some of the pages had, like, illustrations of different alien races. And I was just like,
but a lot of them look like human beings.
Was like, yeah, the way they talked about it was like, it wasn't no joke.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I wasn't. But this is the thing, Jay. I wasn't ready for it back then. I was like, because our minds were still. I mean, even though it was college, I was still like developing or not even knowing who the fuck I was.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it definitely hit at a weird time in life. I mean, we were tripping a lot and doing a lot of like party
Oh
rave
yeah.
stuff, and we're in Arizona, and the Phoenix Lights had just been shown on the news. You remember the Phoenix Lights?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty famous. Yeah, so not to get too off topic, I had some other questions too. Like, so when you were first starting out, did you tell your parents about you rapping? What'd your folks think about it?
No, even later in life, when I started putting out like my own like fucking solo projects and shit, like I gave my mom escapable aquariums. I remember you were around during that time when I was recording that too.
Yeah, that was
It was
when you
still
came
the
to
shrink
visit me in
wrap, and I
Chicago,
like
wasn't
messed
it?
up like 300 copies, and then
Yeah,
I remember I
you
went
were
to
proud
visit
of it,
you.
man, and I was proud of you for doing
Yeah,
it. You went
yeah,
out and did it yourself.
yeah. And then I remember giving my mom a copy, but years later, it's still being in the shrink wrap. So no.
Well,
Koreans are weird, man. Like, unless you're making money doing like a lot of money doing your shit, they're not gonna
right.
pay attention to your shit,
I get it. It's like with a lot of families that migrated here, they look at it. I mean, my Lola, my Filipino grandmother looked at it really
Yeah.
weird when I told her that's what I was doing. But our family's so crazy that it was like, yeah, it was just another thing to add to the table. But I get it, with Korean parents. That's why I asked that question, because a lot of Korean or Asian homies that rap, they don't tell their parents,
No, it's almost kind of like it's like, what's with Asian culture, there's like a lot of shame, it's like
Yeah, well, it's because they work
that
so hard to
shame.
get here, and they work so
Yeah, and
hard to
they're
be
like, "Oh,
here.
what are you doing? You're that's embarrassing. What do that's the way
Right.
they think. They think that shit.
But now, what's your mom think about, like, you having a successful show that
She don't even know about. She really don't know
really,
what I do. Yeah, she really don't know. Yeah,
yeah,
she's just happy. Man, like I went through a lot. Through my dad's death and all that. Like dealing with that shit and like seeing like this was the first time I saw like someone's life leave their body.
right, yeah,
Like
you were there,
I saw it. I like was in the room.
right,
And so once that happened, I was like, that's it? Like that's what life is? He's gone? It really tripped me out, Jay, It tripped me
yeah,
out. So it really like shifted like what's important in my life. And I'm like, well, the reason why I still do music is because as you'll never stop, I'll never stop because it's a part of us.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'll never
So,
stop.
do you
I'll
think
never
that was a part of your drive? Because there was I think that there was a lot of a question, probably not just from your parents, but even your brother. I remember being there, your brother saying something about you rapping and me rapping, and also other folks telling us that it wasn't the route for us to go. Do you think any of that helped drive you to do what you're doing right now, to keep pushing
Yeah,
and get
absolutely.
yourself out there?
Because yeah, man, because you already know how old I am, and like I could have stopped like 10 years ago, whatever.
Right, right.
Um,
But that's the difference between having a passion, an actual pure passion, and understanding
yeah, I
how
don't do it for
important it
money.
is in life. Yeah,
Yeah, because a lot of that's the thing. Like this new generation of kids, like I think it kind of trips me out as far as like their motivation behind it. Like you
right.
can tell some of them are doing it just because it's the trend to do or whatever.
I mean, a lot of people. It's a lot of people driven to get attention, and a lot of people trying to live off of it and eat off of it, which I get. It seems like the easy route to take, because a genuine hardworking job is not of value to young kids
Yeah,
anymore.
well, it's funny you mentioned that because like my attitude towards it is the exact opposite.
Right.
It's like I need to feed this thing.
Yeah.
Not only feed it, it's a part of like if I didn't have this outlet, then it would probably fucking make me more crazier. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, so
I need to do it. It's a part of like, it's kind of like you're like storing up all these jars in your body, and you need to like fucking empty out these fucking jars. You
I
know?
understand. I mean, I know pretty much everybody that's in the same vein of what we do as far as like underground. And I'm
Yeah.
sure, you know, a lot of mainstream artists and just up and coming artists feel the same way. You know, it's just something they have to do. For me, it's like I could care less if I'm making money at it because I this is just what I do. It's so much of a part of me that I need to do it.
Yeah.
If I don't, then I don't feel like myself. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
you know, like to add to your narrative is like when I first met you, I knew when I was sitting in there and we are drinking our beer, and then I heard you rapping. I knew right away. It like really caught my attention. I'm like, what? Because I thought it was a record. I'm like, fuck, that's crazy rapping. Because you used to rap super fast.
Yeah, it's because I was freestyling the jungle a lot
Yeah,
back
yeah.
then. But that's you know, and that's the thing is when I met you, that's when I first started honing it and seeing like, oh, whoa, there's a structure to this that you can use to your advantage and to your benefit, and like the way that you used to format things were just so perfect and just on that break, like you were on it. You know what I mean? You were a real hip hop dude, and that
Man,
changed my whole perspective about music. Ciphering,
appreciate
all of it.
that,
I
but
think
people
I
need
think
to
I
know
bought a
why you-
JanSport backpack because of you and
Oh,
started carrying
yeah.
around rhyme books.
Yeah, but with you, you were like, I look at you like you were like a phenom. Dude, you were only like 15, or you're rapping like an adult. Like you're like super advanced back then.
All right,
You're
maybe it
super
was just
advanced for your age. I was like, God, this kid's sick.
well, that's the thing, you know, the hunger for it, and like you still have that hunger. Like the verse you sent me the other day, it's like that hunger
Well, I was just clowning
leaves you.
around.
Even though you were clowning around, you were experimenting with certain patterns and formats, which a lot of
Yeah, because
rappers
I
don't
want to
do.
be relevant. I want to see what's, it's kind of like you're like, I'm stuck in this time capsule, and I like got out and like, what's hot right now? And
Right.
then I was just like, there's this one of these
Sometimes listening to stuff you don't like is a good motivating factor to do
No,
more,
it's just
you know?
based off of curiosity. I want to know. It's kind of like I said, I'm in this capsule, and then I go out and walk around. Oh, and I look around and see what's going on, and I'm like, oh,
Right.
that's what's going on. You know what I mean? I'm gonna go back to my lab now, which is fine.
It's funny because I did the same thing today. I was listening to new stuff and I was like, for the beats mainly, because I've been making beats a lot more now.
Yeah.
And I was listening to it today and picking it apart and trying to find something positive about it, you know, because
No, that's good. That's a right attitude.
the older I get, the more I'm like, oh man, that shit is pretty lame. But you know, I'm gonna give it a shot and try to find something good about it. But then, you know, now that I listen to it, I'm like, dang, these guys are really doing something different, and they're taking aspects of the past and new stuff and things from all over to create this sound.
Yeah.
You know? So
yeah.
yeah, so let's talk about how you decided to go start doing the Steebee weebee show. Because
Yeah.
how did you make that transition from deciding to just focus on music to going into interviewing?
Well, okay, so Steve Aoki fucking brought out Mangchi to New York to do
Right.
Fashion Week.
Mm-hmm. I
It was a
remember
weird
that.
ass weekend, dude. It was a weird ass. First of all, there's like, do you even know about like the fashion industry? It's so bizarre.
Yeah,
Like,
remember I worked for Fresh Job.
oh yeah, so you know, it's a bizarre
Yeah, it's
industry.
a
And
weird
so,
industry.
so we had to perform fucking on these skateboarding mini ramps, and then there's all these model skaters, and so we did a show there. Then we had another show fucking at some club in New York. Oh, but guess who I saw during sound check that kind of tripped me out? Large Professor.
Whoa.
So I was going through our, we're like going through sound check, and I noticed he was there because doing a sound check after.
Right.
And so I was like, I'm pretty good at spotting. Like I was like, that guy looks so familiar. And then it just like the light bulb went out. And like with me, it's respect. Everything's respect. So I just went up to him and I said like, hey, I just I gave him props. I'm like, hey man,
Right.
I want to meet you. Yeah.
Was it cool?
Yeah, he was really humble, really cool, and like he actually like gave me like a compliment, like, "Oh, that sounded cool, man," or whatever. And I'm like, and
I
then
think
that
that's and I want to keep going with your story, but I want to say this before I forget. But I think that's a really cool part of your show for me personally. I know for maybe not for a lot of your fans, but that you bring on artists that we've respected in the past that are
I
still doing
try.
their thing, and you give them a platform to talk, and you also give listeners like me something to listen to because for me, especially when it comes to music, I'm not up on the current stuff too much, but
Me neither.
I still want to hear from the people who I respect and admire. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a cool thing that you do that on your platform because not a lot of people do. And
Yeah.
actually,
Well,
I'm probably going to take some of that and do it on mine.
hey, man, that's great. If, whatever you need, I'll. Shit, man, I'm just happy you're doing it.
Yeah. So
So anyway, to finish my story, like, so we're flying back from those two shows from New York to LA, right?
mm,
And then Money Mark was fucking kind of like planting these seeds of like, hey, you should find. I think he knew information that I didn't know about the band. You know what I mean? About how like, it might end soon or whatever.
right. Yeah. He probably had some insight.
Yeah. So I was like on that flight, just like really kind of like reflecting and like I kind of got scared, like because I
Mm,
invested so much of my time
right.
to it, and so I'm like, fuck, I
Yeah, I
gotta.
remember when you got that band going, man. I was super surprised and happy for you, man.
Yeah, I mean that again, kind of in a way, I owe Dave a lot because I had, I was working at a sandwich shop,
Right, Fat
and
South,
I'm
yeah.
just like, I had given up. I would, I recorded I think Duraflame Pencil, one of my
Mm,
EPs, and I'm like, I'm done with this shit. You know, I was just like really exhausted from just like not only the disappointment, but just like how like sometimes we feel like we're just stuck, like no one
right,
cares, no one's listening to our shit, or
yeah,
no one's, and especially how much time invested we put into our music. I
right,
don't just I don't just fucking like, hey, oh, it's done. Like I sit there for hours and days just like obsessed with it, like I spend a lot of energy and concentration on these projects, you know what I
right.
mean? So I'm like, I was at a point where I was frustrated, and then but going back to the airplane, I'm like, what could I do? And I'm like, oh shit, why don't I do a podcast? And then I turned around and I asked Money Mark, I go, hey, Money, if I start this, will you be one of my first guests? And he goes, absolutely.
Yeah, I remember seeing that, and going back to what you were saying of working so hard on stuff and then being exhausted. I think that's what made this show even more exciting for me. And I know people like us that work really hard independently at their music, and sometimes it doesn't pick up the way people want it to, or they have expectations where it doesn't work out. So you're like a hometown hero that we've seen succeed on the internet. You know what I mean? You're almost,
Yeah,
you're at 100K now
yeah, I'm like
subscribers.
five. I might be right now. I was like literally 500 away or something crazy.
You know what I mean? So that's a win for us to see you win. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm
So,
glad. You know what? I'm just grateful because this is the thing, man. Me, like, because like again, going back to my dad and how much he worked to get money. At the end of the day, it's like it doesn't matter how much money you have. It really doesn't.
right,
What
right,
matters, like, it put things into perspective for me. What matters is what matters to you personally. What brings you happiness? And
right,
for me, completing a project I poured my soul and my heart into, that's what matters to me. And also on this tip, as far as our mortality, when we're gone, guess what? That shit, we leave that behind.
yeah,
Those are like our ancient artifacts. You know what I'm
mm,
saying?
yeah,
So
dang,
what?
yeah,
You
straight
know what I'm
up.
saying? And
Mm-hmm.
and rest in peace, people like Idea and like
Yeah,
all the cats that like we're like looking up to back then.
yeah,
He left a whole bunch of shit behind, like his art.
right. Yeah, I
So
mean,
yeah, man, like
that's a great way of looking at it. It's like I don't spend my time too much worrying about making $1 million. Although, you know, it would be nice. And there's definitely things, you know, you can do to set yourself up to where you're comfortable. But there's definitely a lot more to life than trying to be famous or getting money. Or there's a lot more substance in life than that. You know, it's like you don't take the money with you. That's for sure.
That's
you know?
for sure. That's for
you
damn.
don't take it with you. And when then time moves fast.
But let me just add a little bit to give you some like props as far as seeing your trajectory. When you had moved to the Midwest or Chicago, I was super proud because I didn't know, like, I'm like, what is he? Who are these people? And later to find out like how cool their label was and like their acts and their artists were, I was like, oh shit, he did the right thing.
Well, you know, that jump was something that needed to be done because you and I were surrounded by so many talented people in Arizona, but it came to that point where it felt like nobody had the same goals and direction and drive to go a certain direction that I wanted to go. So it was like, after, you know, of course, when we met Meaty and all those guys, that's when I took off. And then when I saw you go back to LA, I knew some things was going to go down, you know, so I was happy about that, man. And it's nice to see you be where you're at and see that you've been grinding the Steebee Weebee Show, which, you know, everybody loves. It's nice to hear people talk about you where they're like, you know that dude? I'm like, know that dude. Yeah, we're basically related, man.
Yeah, you're like my brother, yeah.
And that's awesome, man, because there couldn't be a better person that I know to hold this spot right now. And you're only growing stronger and getting better. And you know, we've been praying for you to go as far as you can go with it. You know,
hey, you know what's weird is like, I'm not saying my music's taken off by any means, but like at least a small portion of my fan base from that the other content, they're now tuning in, you know, that's more than I could ask for. Cause back then that's all we ever wanted.
Right.
You know, doing all these shitty shows in Arizona to now, oh, someone bought my music. What the fuck? You know, that small thing. I'm like,
that's the other thing too, man, that I love seeing is that I love seeing that people are appreciating you like I do. You know what I mean? Like I always have appreciated you and your music and your uniqueness and your talent. You know, and just your genuine good person, you know, and people, and it shows through. There's not a lot like you out there, man. There's a lot of people that are not like you, especially that are in the entertainment business, you know. So it's a win for all the good people that you're doing your thing.
Yeah, so, and then not only that, it's like I get to meet like some of my heroes now.
Right. I mean? Yeah.
Like,
dude, you've done some interviews with some rad people, man.
Yeah, like A+ started following me.
That's awesome, man.
And if people know how much of a hieroglyphics head I am.
Right. And that kind of music is a part of who you are too.
Room, you know what I'm saying? Like I had Souls of Mischief, like they're like I remember cutting a picture of them and Dell had a separate wall. Yeah. I remember my first dorm, I had them on my wall.
Yeah.
I'd like wake up and look at them.
Yeah, you got me. I think you're one of the first people to get me into. You are the first person to get me into Dell, because you were like, he's a Bay dude. You know, you ever heard this dude?
Yeah, I got you into Hyro.
Well, I heard Souls of Mischief because in the Bay, Souls was huge.
Right,
but
right.
I never heard Dell and Hyro like that. I think I heard Casual once, but that was a long time ago on the box or something like that. But you got me into Dell. And then when I heard Dell, it changed my whole style, bro.
Oh, man. People don't even know, like, fucking Dell. You know what's crazy is I was listening to this Andre 3000 interview with Rick Rubin.
Yeah, I listened to that too. Yeah, that was great.
Andre and Eminem were actually talking about hieroglyphics.
Right. Yeah. I remember hearing that. That blew my mind. Yeah.
I'm like, what? Like these guys like knew, you know, that goes to show how much of an impact Hyro and Dell had on like major artists. You know?
Everybody. I mean, you and I both, you know?
Yeah.
So, I don't want to get too off topic. I want to stay on topic with you. No, let's go all good. So my whole premise for the show is like past, present, and future. So we've talked about your past a little bit and about your
Yeah.
present, and you know, I'd like to know what's going on with you in the future. Like, what are you working on? What do you got going on? What are your plans? Anything new happening?
Yeah, well, so during quarantine, I was like just watching a lot of movies and shit, like,
Right.
and then I started watching like Gene Wilder movies and shit, like
Ah,
a Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and fucking
classic.
and then Stir Crazy, which is
Mm.
like one of my favorite
Is
fucking
Richard
movies.
Pryor?
Yeah, Richard Pryor too. And so I don't know why or how it like entered into my brain, but something in my brain said you should you should like sample some of this stuff and make music, you know? So I'm like, so that's like for me nowadays, I don't know what it's like for you, but it just takes a small idea and then I'll fucking just like start feeding it and be like, oh, I could, So I'm like, people might ask why would you do a whole concept album on just a movie or Gene Wilder, Richard Pryor, whatever? It started with Gene Wilder, right?
Mm.
I was just gonna make my first idea was, oh, I'm gonna take all Gene Wilder's movies and like make this collage of all these movies and then like make this album around it. But then I'm like, no, it's gonna be there's too many, there's too much. So I just like kind of pinned it down to Stir Crazy.
Mm.
So people might say, why? I ask you this, why not? Shit.
Mm. Yeah.
There's
It's
so
art,
many,
bro. It's a blank
there's so many
canvas.
classic fucking one-liners in it and just like funny shit. And so this album, I'm like a couple songs in. This album, I'm taking samples and pulling ideas out of the samples for whole different songs. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
So
that's great. That should give some people some foresight and insight into your creative process, which is like, it's literally your brain thinking that you're putting into your music, the way that you
yeah.
structure thoughts, it goes into your music, like literally, that's
Oh,
pretty
oh
cool
yeah,
to hear.
absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
I know you, but the people that watch don't really know you like that. I've seen you just zone the fuck out on every project where it's like, I'll be knocking on your door. You're like, dude, what's up, man? I'm making music. I'm trying to work on this album. So just come back later. I'm like, yeah. I can't be mad at that. Nobody could be mad at that because when you're in your zone, you're at it, and that's and that's something that I can appreciate, and respect highly.
Yeah, and I think that's what like attracts me to the art too is how the people like mention going back to the laboratory or lab.
Yeah.
I do feel like, especially when I'm in a project, I feel like a scientist. Like I really do feel like I'm concocting, like doing alchemy, Like that's the way I look at like like the way we make beats, like, combining so many different,
Yeah.
I'm trying to fuse all these different things.
Most definitely.
So what I like to do it, I thought a lot, I like really analyze the way, like as far as the way I produce is like, it's kind of like, I'm at a point now where I like to do like sentimental bangers, where it's like I kind of concoct and like fuse different elements where they complement each other.
That's awesome,
like,
man.
Like jazz with some other shit or
contrasting sounds. I think that makes everything.
I love that.
At least for me, my nerdy brain when it comes to rap music is like I need contrast. I think that it's great to have like a hard beat and then a soft sound with your voice, or like a loud voice with a soft beat. Like just contrast like that.
Not only that is like blending different genres and like making them sound like seamless, like they're one and
like
the
they
same.
belong together.
Yeah, that's the way I fuck with the sampler. I'm like, that's why my sleeping schedule's all fucked up because
I don't know, bro. You've always kind of slept like this.
all right. But especially now, like I'm like I'll spend even in Arizona. I was like that. I'll spend all night, and then like the sun. Would come
you're a night, bro. I mean, I was the same way, bro, until I had kids. But it's that's kind of where artists work the best is at night. No sunlight,
Yeah, I can't wait for you to listen to this shit, man.
I'm excited. Do you have a name for the project already?
Yeah, I'm gonna probably call it "I Feel Stir Crazy." Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
have this whole,
genius.
yeah.
That's
You know,
kind of
you know
how
what?
everybody's
I
feeling
want to
right
give a
now
shout out to
too.
my girlfriend. She actually really solidified like me pushing forward with this project because she goes, "It's perfect, babe, because we're in quarantine and everyone feels stir crazy."
Right. Yo,
So
no
I'm like,
doubt.
"Oh, that's like another added element. It's relevant because of
Right.
the state of the world. You know what I'm saying? We're all in
Yeah.
quarantine. You know what I'm saying?"
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, "Fuck, okay, I'm gonna do this for sure now." You know?
I'm hyped, man. I can't wait to hear it. I mean, you from what you told me about it from I'm hyped that you're digging for breaks super hard.
Yeah. So
That
what's
for me is
different is
really important.
because you told me something that really still affects me is like remember my old shit you like played for Mediocre
Mm-hmm.
and then you came back to me. He goes, Meaty knows where you got those breaks off those CDs. And I'm like, oh, how does he know? And I realized producers, they have a year. They're like, oh, that's that James Brown break, but you know, they know, you
Right.
know.
Because there's
But with
really
this
it's
project, I don't want. I'm not sharing. You know, because people didn't share their secrets with me.
mm,
I'm not telling them where I'm finding my shit,
yeah,
but
don't. Keep
I'm
it
finding.
dusty, bro.
I discovered a fucking gold mine, and I'm like, I'm not telling anybody.
That's awesome, man.
And so
I'm real hyped to hear it.
I'm finding breaks like breaks like that I've never heard. Like whoa. And
Yeah,
I'm
hard
like,
ones. Are you
whoa.
chopping them super hard? Are you chopping them tough? Or are you just looping them, or what are you doing?
No, I'm not.
Can
You
you
know,
can you let us in on
I'm
the
like
secret
fucking
sauce?
Mad Lib. I'll loop it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I
Mad
just
Lib's one
loop
of the
it.
best,
Or
bro.
I might put like a filter effect. I might like put an effect on it, or you know,
Yeah, dude,
make it
I'm
sound
hyped to
more
hear it.
punchier or whatever. But
I'm hyped you're back on the sampler because
yeah,
you
so
always been really good at chopping samples. Like that's when I first met you when you were chopping samples. I was like, damn, he's killing these jazz samples.
yeah, I think yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I think is most gratifying is the production aspect of the art.
I mean,
It's literally like you're painting, you know what I mean? Like you're
I
actually
don't
fucking painting.
I think my from my perspective, like your fans, I don't know if they know how in depth you go with things. Like your writing, you take your time with your writing, and you're skillful, and you're really diligent with how you use your word placement and what words you're using and how you're putting them together and how you're enunciating them and how you're pronouncing them and just the craftsmanship that goes into just your writing is incredible, and then on top of that the craftsmanship that goes into your production is just complements it for me,
Yeah,
you know.
that's why I've had people hit me up on Instagram like, is it done yet? Is it done yet? I'm waiting patiently. Is it done yet? And I don't think they realize, man, this is I don't just fucking just mix it together. Here you go. You know,
Yeah,
my shit's like, no, I'm fucking good. I take my time. Like
yeah, it takes some
I'm
time for
sitting
you.
down with this shit.
Yeah,
And people don't realize once I put it out, I had listened to it a million times already. So I'm already
man,
sick of it at that point. I'm like, I'll stay up all night being like, I gotta redo it because I'm not saying this word right, you know?
I don't know if anybody else does that, but like, you know, definitely when I make something, anything, I listen to it a million times. Just
Yeah,
first because I like it, and then after that, I'm just critiquing the shit out of it, you know.
yeah, I analyze. I think we're similar in so many ways when it
Yeah,
comes to that shit.
I
I
mean,
don't
we
know.
came up writing together, man.
Yeah, we
So
came up like that's the thing about me and you. Like this thing, I still take it seriously. It's not like just some fucking
yeah,
really,
I do too, man.
like put it in
I'm
filter.
at
It's
that point where I'm all about progression and now like marrying things that I love about all the past aspects of what I've done with rhyming and stuff. But
yeah.
yo, not to cut this short because it's been
Are
a
we
long
done?
time. Yeah, I
Oh,
think
that flew by.
yeah, it's been a while, bro. It's been an
Yeah.
hour already. So I kind of want to end it on this. You know, if you want to tell people about what you got coming up and, you know, do all your plugs
Yeah.
and all that stuff. You know what
All
I mean?
right. So I'm working on this concept album. I'm close to finishing it. I'm
Mm,
like 7 or 8 songs in.
mm,
And And yeah, support that. Go to steebeeweebeebandcamp.com, you know, for that shit. And,
They can buy all your merch there, past merch, present
yeah,
merch.
no, my merch is at steebeeweebeeshow.com.
Okay.
And then youtube.com/steebeeweebee, and then Quangou, Quangou, Instagram. That's it.
And yo, last but not least, what's Quangou mean in English?
That's my name in Korean. I just still haven't changed, you know.
Yeah. Does it have a meaning to it or?
I don't know. I have to ask my mom. I still haven't asked her what the Korean meaning is. Yeah, but yeah, that's my name. And so I'm like, shit, I'm just gonna roll with. That's my name, you know.
I love it. We've loved it since the beginning. That's I still address you as that. You know.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Hey, so I have to call Quell. He won't answer his text.
Yeah, you got to call him, man. He's working hard. Shout out to Quell.
He's still my favorite. Shout out to Quell.
He's still the best,
Quell's
bro.
Still the best.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I got my baby boy in the background screaming, man. So I got to get going.
All right. Hey, man, I love you, man. And
I love you too. Thank you for being a part of this, man.
Anything you let me know when this drops. I'll plug the shit out of it on my social media.
I appreciate you, brother.
All right, man. Thanks.
Yeah. Love you, man.
Right, man.
Peace.
Right, peace.
Lyrical, spiritual. Lyrical,